Welcome everyone to this wonderful meeting of Tigertales Toastmasters. Let's start the meeting, and I would like to invite our Toastmaster of the day, Xavier, to take us through this meeting.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ajita. Also, shout out to our clap master, Ming Shuo, for that interesting sound that he will continue throughout the meeting to kind of simulate clapping in this trying time of Zoom call Toastmasters meetings. Just a reminder, guys, if you can have on your video, if something comes up and you need to turn it off, totally cool, but just so the speakers have people to look at, if you could have it on, that's going to be great as well. And now we get to jump right into the fun parts of our meeting. And I'm going to start off with talking about the word of the day just a little bit, arise. And the reason I chose this word is because it kind of represents, like rising represents going up. Arise, for me, represents that very beginning part. So for you math people, I'm going to share my screen so you get a good idea of what I'm talking about. So that arise part is just the very beginning, whether you hit some sort of bottom and start going up again, or you're going flat and you start going up. The way that we most commonly think about it is to get up in the morning. You go from that peaceful and restful sleep, kind of staying flat, into this change of something new, with a new day that comes aboard. And what's interesting about Arise, outside of the normal day structure, is that you don't really recognize when Arise happens until much later. So if we're thinking about a change, you usually don't think about that first action. Or if you were on a journey, it would be that sage wise man knocking on your door. You didn't know that was the beginning of this crazy journey, but it was. And this is something that happens to us in Toastmasters as well, and in various parts of our lives, because Arise is the beginning of transformation. So to point out my Toastmaster Arise point was, I was giving one speech a semester, slowly growing, but I was watching other people blaze off super fast because they were giving multiple speeches and practicing and growing really fast. That point of Arise for me, because I started to kind of tip off, is actually competing. And that's what made me grow even faster, practicing multiple kind of every week with Preetam and other people, getting different sorts of feedback, tweaking my speech, bringing in everything that I could to it to grow even faster. I went from giving one speech a semester to giving 6 speeches that semester, and I've tried not to look back yet. Another point, because it's outside of Toastmasters too, is last year I went on quite a journey to start a keto diet and lose 50 pounds. But I didn't know it was going to be that much in the beginning, to be honest. And my first Arise point there was actually when I went to Houston, Texas to visit my dad and my younger brother. And my dad definitely had the idea that everything was bigger in Texas, because he said, you want some donuts, Xavier? And I was like, some donuts? No, I'm on keto. Give me a coffee. And he comes back with a box of 12 donuts. And I look at him and I'm looking at these donuts and I say, I guess you and my little brother are pretty hungry then, because 6 donuts a piece is a lot. The beginning of a 50-pound weight loss journey. And I'm sure that you guys have Arise points as well. And my hope is that as we're going through, you guys can consider those, because in addition to being worth considering, they make for great speeches. And to get into that just a little bit, because we have 3 sections of our meeting, and the first one is our prepared speeches, where people will get the chance to share their stories. And The second one is this more impromptu section where anybody can come and get a question that they answer on the fly, because you never know when you're in an elevator and somebody asks you a question that needs a 1 to 2 minute answer. And then our third section is our general evaluation section for the prepared speakers. This way, on their journey of growth, they have that feedback. And not only that, the club gets that feedback as well, because you can grow just as much from somebody else's speeches from your own if you're really listening. We also have a few roles that are going to assist us tonight in kind of keeping track of the general meeting as a whole. Our first one is the odd counter, Cyril. Can you explain your role?
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. My role today will be to monitor the filler words. I myself is a champion of filler words, so this is gonna be a great exercise for me. Get ready. I'm gonna be monitoring every well, so those type of words. And at the end of the meeting, I will be providing a report. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Cyril. Last week, from the way that I understood it, Alex and I actually had the most filler words, and I have a feeling that I've already set us up with a good amount of filler words, so your goal is to get less than me. Our next functionary will be our grammarian, who is Alistair. Can you explain your role tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Our word of the day today is a paragon. Paragon is a noun, and paragon is defined as a model of excellence or perfection of a kind. An example is the Toastmasters model has served as a paragon to grow leaders over the last 100 years. Paragon. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alistair. And our third functionary is our timer, who will keep this meeting on track. How will you do that, Ajita?
So for the prepared speeches, we have 5 to 7 minutes. At 5 minutes, you'll be seeing a green background. At 6 minutes, you'll see a yellow background. And at 7 minutes, you'll see a red background, where you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your speech. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our first speaker for tonight, because we're going to jump right into it, is Kelly. And evaluating Kelly is Tanai. Tanai, can you explain Kelly's speech for tonight?
Hello everyone, this is Kelly's elective project from the Pathways Innovative Planning. And this is a level 3 elective project titled Understanding Vocal Variety. The purpose of this project is to practice using vocal variety to enhance the speech. And apart from that, Kelly has asked me to look for the changes in her pitch and the tone volume and the pace to emphasize the different sections of her speech. So all the very best, Kelly, for your speech.
Kelly has been a Toastmaster for some years and is continuously growing into a better and better speaker, inspiring the next generation and the next generation of Toastmasters with her achievements. I asked Kelly what her morning routine is, because in the point of arising, you get up every day. So I'm curious what people do to actually arise out of bed. Her morning routine is she gets up with her daughter Eden, feeds her daughter breakfast, and then makes herself breakfast, gets dressed, does her hair, and then if it's work, she'll listen to the daily Bible while showering, and then does COVID screening test, which I think everyone in RIT has to do now too, on her phone, and then goes to work. Kelly's speech title is The Job That Shapes Us. The Job That Shapes Us. Kelly.
You have to believe that the dots somehow connect in your future, quoted Steve Jobs. I've had a lot of jobs in a variety of places. Looking back in the rear view mirror, I realized that each of these jobs gave me a glimpse into building my character, taught me skills that I wouldn't have learned otherwise, and helped me to want to follow some people and not others. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. The first paying job that I had was as a babysitter. I took a course through the Red Cross to be prepared as possible. I mostly watched kids from my neighborhood, and I connected mostly with them by playing. I loved playing hide and go seek. My neighbor kids' names were Bridget and Sean. Hey, Sean and Bridget, you ready to play? On your mark, get set, here I come. Another game we liked to play was catch, and I would often put one of them on my back and give them a piggyback ride while we go chase the other one. At the end of the day, we'd read a story and quiet ourselves down. I'd often also have to sing a lullaby like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star to help calm them. Boy, was I tired after those days, and I was glad to be able to give those kids back to their parents. My mother also instilled in me to always leave that house cleaner than when you came in. What I would do was try to do all the dinner or lunch dishes while the kids were doing a quiet activity or after they went to bed, and I would pick up any remaining toys. As a result of being a good cleaner, this landed me my next job, a house cleaner. I often was able to clean homes about one time a week in the summers, and they were mostly from my babysitting jobs that I got to clean these homes. I was very meticulous about cleaning the kitchen floors. I would get on my hands and knees and clean and scrub all that dirt and grime off. Dusting was probably my least favorite activity, but I figured someone's got to do it, and I'm probably the only one taking care of this particular job this summer, so I might as well make the most of it. I would blast that radio to help me with my pace and get me going and keep me motivated. It would often take me about 2 to 4 hours to clean a whole entire house, depending on what my job was for the day. The next job that I had was when I turned 16, I decided I'm going to go out in the community and work for a fast food restaurant. Wendy's, here I come. I was able to watch a video about food safety and learned 3 important things: white, red, and green. These were the orders of condiments that you were supposed to put on a sandwich: mayonnaise, ketchup, pickles, onions, tomatoes, lettuce. Red, white, green. Now, mustard was an option as well, but you had to request it. I soon found out that I was not a sandwich girl. As I mentioned about house cleaning, I was very meticulous about things. It would take me a little while longer than others, I noticed, to make a sandwich. I would place each condiment on appropriately, and they expected us to get it done in 30 seconds or less. Well, I often took a bit longer, and my manager, Ann, came up to me once and said, "Kelly, you're making a sandwich. This is not a dinner party." I found my niche in being a cashier. I loved being with people, and I was able to greet them with my big flashy smile. "Welcome to Wendy's. Can I take your order?" I also was pretty good in math, so I took some pride in being able to give people back their correct change and also profit the business by adding, "Would you like to have a Frosty for dessert for 99 more cents?" The final job that I took before landing a professional degree job was as a patient care technician at a local hospital for the radiation oncology department. I had a connection there because we knew the vice president. My mom had babysat her children growing up. I also got a position offered to me in lab research, but I decided that the patient care technician was a better fit for me because I'd rather be with people than be sitting in a confined space. I got to go and bring patients into their room and get them ready for their radiation treatments. I also got to run some of the port films that showed x-rays of the areas that were being radiated. I enjoyed being able to get to know the oncologists who taught me some of the anatomy on those x-rays that helped prepare me for my future job as a physical therapist. But my favorite part was getting to know the patients, hearing their stories about how they got cancer, how they dealt with it. I saw a lot of people get better, but I also saw some get worse. One woman got treatment really late in her pathway of skin cancer. Her nose was totally deteriorating and she stopped taking care of herself. As a result, she became hopeless and died shortly after. The other extreme was a woman that I met who had breast cancer. She got an early diagnosis, had a really positive attitude, and her prognosis ended up turning out well. She was also able to go on an exotic adventure with her family that she had been dreaming about. These jobs all taught me many things in life and helped prepare me for raising a child, maintaining a clean household, making some healthier food choices, and also to remind me to value the life that I've been given because it can be taken at any moment. Make the most of the job that you've been given. Be a paragon in whatever you're given, and your rewards will be priceless. Mr. Toastmaster.
I don't know about you guys, but if I saw Kelly's smiling face and asking if I wanted a Frosty, I would definitely say yes. So, Madam Timer, can we get a minute for feedback? Our next speaker for tonight will be Chitra, and evaluating Chitra is Hassan. Hassan, can you explain what Chitra is working on tonight?
Thank you, Xavier. Hello, everybody. Chitra is working on a project, planning and implementing, which is in the level 3 of the pathway leadership development. So the purpose of the project is to share some aspect of planning and implementing of a small-scale project she's working on or she's going to work on. Back to you, Xavier.
Chitra has been a Toastmaster for just about two years, I think. I'm questioning myself, maybe 1 year. But she has had a good deal of experience as our president of Tigertales, the very past one. And I asked Chitra what her morning routine was. And the text back, I'm going to try to say it in the right tone. My morning routine, I wake up in the afternoon. So I make myself lunch and then I get started with the day. I hope that was a good one. Her title was When Tomorrow Becomes Now. When Tomorrow Becomes Now, Chitra.
Hi everybody, I'm Chitra. I'm doing my MBA in project management. Having a love for project management means that you have to love time management, delegation, planning, working with people, working under pressure. I do a bit of these things. I'm a full-time student. I'm searching actively for jobs after December. I just finished 50 kilometers running last month and 60 kilometers walking on the weekdays, not to mention the other hikes I've been doing. I try to cook 2 meals a day. I've been an active e-board member in Toastmasters and in Project Management Institute, and I try to sleep for 7 hours. You would think, oh God, I have so much things to do that every morning I wake up and look at my agenda and I'm like, yeah, go, 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 go. And I want that to happen, but rarely it doesn't happen that way. My brain's graph is not a straight line. It wanders. There are ups and lows, and the ups only come when I have a deadline. I was thinking that working under last minute is not something good. Not everybody would enjoy it. But I really enjoy working under last minute because it adds me to pressure and I cannot procrastinate more and I have to get the job done. And one part of being a project manager student was something that I learned is planning. And I thought this time when I go for a next trip, I'm going to plan very heavily and stick to that. So last weekend, I and my friends planned to go on a camp for the first time. And I and my friends sat there for 2-3 hours researching what places to go, where to sleep, what to buy for the trip, what do we eat for the next 2 days, what do we wear for the next 2 days. So many things going on our brain. And I said, this is the itinerary we have. We're going to do this, 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 and this, and we'll have a best trip of our lives. On our way to the camp, we saw this amazing sunrise on the way. And this was not something that was in our plan. It was a beautiful, small, beautiful lake. And then there was a pretty sunrise happening and the sky was so beautiful that you could see the sky's reflection on the lake. And it was like 2 times sky over there. And sunrises, as I think, is the paragon of nature's beauty. It was very incredible. I have never seen such a beautiful sunrise in my entire life. And then goes by the night. We tried to camp, we built a tent. And then we thought, why don't we go for a small little stroll and then retire for the day? That's when we saw the whole Milky Way over there in the night sky, which nobody had mentioned in the 5 hours of research we did. And I was like, this was not a part of the plan. But we slept 2 hours later, and because of the morning, we had seen the sunrise also, which was not a part of the plan. We had to hike faster. So that's when I realized that sometimes things don't go according to the plan because we want something better than the plan. When people say that, what's your 5-year plan? What's your next 10 years plan? But do you really think that that's what you want 5 years from now? Because every time when we go ahead, we think that we want something else in our future. What I wanted 5 years ago was smaller than what I think I'm doing right now. It's because whenever we are nearing the goal, we want to find a better tomorrow. When tomorrow becomes now, you would want a better now. When tomorrow becomes now, you would want a better tomorrow. Back to you, Toastmaster.
I'm so glad to hear, Chitra, that you didn't get stuck in the details and looked up and admired the beauty when it came. Ajita, can we get a minute for feedback, love notes. Our final speaker for tonight will be Grant. Evaluating Grant is the Alex Turner. Can you tell us what Grant's going to be working on tonight?
Absolutely. So Grant's been a part of our club for a few years now, and he's gone from the traditional Toastmasters education program into his team collaboration path. He's currently working on level 2, and his project is the mentor protege speech. So he's talking about that, and I'm going to be looking for pauses and hand gestures. I'm really looking forward to hearing Grant's speeches. I always enjoy his approach to speaking, and I'm looking forward to hearing this one. Mr. Toastmaster.
I asked Grant what his morning routine is, and he says, first I wake up and I contemplate going back to sleep. It's good to be unemployed sometimes. Then I exercise for 20 minutes, I shower, and eat some cereal. My response to Grant was, well, if you decide not to be unemployed, it's time to join a startup because you can contemplate sleep and take advantage of that. His title is The Mentor and the Protege. The Mentor and the Protege, Grant.
Mentors are an integral part of the Toastmasters experience. We can get limited feedback on a meeting-to-meeting basis from evaluators and functionaries, but the benefits of those smaller supporting roles hardly extend past a couple of speeches or meetings. On the other hand, mentors are able to give you the long-term support and guidance needed to progress your Toastmasters career. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and distinguished guests, today I'd like to talk about my experience as a protege with Brendan as my mentor and how he's helped me become the speaker I am now. Now, before I continue, I was told Brendan would be in here, so this is geared towards him, but if he's not here, then I'll tell it later for him personally. I started attending Toastmasters in my second year of undergrad at RIT. Soon after joining, Brendan became my mentor. He was quick to share stories of how he began his Toastmasters journey with me. And when I was preparing for my first speech, or first speeches, he would reassure me that even he had had difficulties with his first speeches. For a while, I always needed a script out in front of me so I could read line by line so that I didn't mess up. And he made me feel better by telling me that he also relied on his script for the first few of his speeches. He would go out of his way to listen to my speeches and give me feedback before I was scheduled to give them. He pushed me out of my comfort zone many times so that I could achieve bigger goals. He even bought me food on countless occasions so we could sit down and talk about Toastmasters and life in general. We would sit at a booth in Jay's Diner, Red Robin, or some other restaurant, and we would talk for a long while about my previous and future speeches. He always knew what I needed to do to take a step further in my Toastmasters career. Brendan went above and beyond just being a mentor in Toastmasters, truly. He became my friend. He went out of his way to take me to places I wouldn't have gone otherwise. For instance, he took me to the Lilac Festival, and on numerous occasions, he showed me around various parks in Rochester. He even took me to, and paid my ticket for, the Strong National Museum of Play. I remember there was this one game there called Guitar Hero. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. Basically, you have this controller in the shape of a guitar, and you have to move your fingers and hands and press the buttons on the guitar in order to hit the certain notes that came up. And if you didn't hit them in time, then you didn't get a score or didn't get any points for that. Now, I had never played Guitar Hero before, but Brendan had. And so we decided to play against each other, side by side. He decided he was going to play on the hard difficulty. And well, if he was playing on the hard difficulty, then I wasn't going to take an easier difficulty. I also played on the hard difficulty. And that was a mistake. The game started, and I didn't even really know how to use a guitar in the first place. I tried playing the notes, but I missed every single time. I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I was just pressing things, and it wasn't working. And I was feeling very self-conscious about my progress because, well, we were in a public area and I felt people watching me all around. I looked over to Brendan and saw that he was getting basically every note right. I looked back at my screen and my score and I saw a big fat 0. At this point, I felt myself starting to sweat out of embarrassment. I looked back at Brendan. He was concentrating on getting the notes right. I was still concentrating on getting a note right. Just one would have done. I also noticed that his right hand was doing something on the guitar. He was pressing a button of some sort, and I didn't even realize this button existed. So I looked back at my guitar, looked down, and started pressing with it. Oh, it is a button. And sooner or later, I figured out that pressing that button in combination with the buttons up here, at the top left buttons, eventually got me some points. And another point, and another point, and another. Eventually, though, the game ended, and I came out with a score above 0, which is really all I could have hoped for. I certainly didn't do great, but I watched what Brendan did and tried to learn from him. And sometimes that's what a protege has to do. A mentor's job isn't to explain how to do everything. The protege sometimes has to find things out for him or herself. Like when Brendan was giving a speech, I listened to what he said and watched how he moved. I learned many things from the speeches he gave, even if he wasn't aware I was listening so intently. I looked up to him as a paragon of a speaker, and I think I'm a better speaker because of it. It's been 4 years since I met Brendan in one of my early Toastmasters meetings. Now that I've graduated from RIT, and I'll be starting my new job shortly, I felt that it was only appropriate for me to publicly recognize all that Brendan's done, both knowingly and unknowingly. So thank you, Brendan, for bringing me food or buying me food on so many occasions, offering me your wisdom both in life and in Toastmasters, and being a prime example of someone I can look up to. You told me a few times over the years that you did all of this for me so that when I'm older, I'll pass on the kindness and do the same for someone else. As I continue to the next stage of my life, I'll certainly remember your wish, and I hope to do it justice in the future. Mr. Toastmaster.
Wonderful job, Grant. Definitely agree with everything you said about Brendan. I do want to give you a quick feedback that you had the opportunity to call Brendan your good hero and you missed it. So you should add that in your next personal speech to him. Gina, can we get 1 minute on the clock, please? This concludes the first section of our meeting. And to lead us into the next section, we have a table topics master in Deb Turner. I asked her what her morning routine was, and I was going to try to tell it to you, but I think it's better to show you. Her first step is she gets coffee in the morning, at least one jug full. She does her hair up all nice, gets dressed, breaks down the door, and cruises out to work. And this is about true. I've seen her get ready in the morning. Deb Turner.
Past roommate. So welcome to the table topics. This is where anyone can participate, any guests. You don't have to be a member. Pretty much the hardest thing is just putting your hand up and volunteering yourself to answer a question. Sorry, my cat Shadow's being a little persistent right now and wanting my attention. So just like any good game, there are some rules to the game. So if we could get the timing rules to start, that'd be perfect.
For table topics, you have 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I will make my background green, as we all saw. At 1.5 minutes, I will make it yellow. And at 2 minutes, I'll make it red. And then you have 30 seconds to wrap up your speech. Back to you, Madam.
And next, our grammarian. What are the rules of table topics when it comes to our word of the day?
The word of the day is a paragon. And it is a noun. It means a model of excellence or perfection of a kind. Paragon. An example of paragon. The table topics section is a paragon in allowing speakers to be at peace with their fear. Paragon. Back to you, Madam Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Alisara. So, who would like to get us started with answering the first question? Hey, Cyril, awesome. Okay, let me grab my questions. So I learned that Paragon is also some kind of epic, crazy video game, according to Google. If you were stuck in a video game, what video game would you want that to be? I think you're
At work, we call this the symptom of Ife. She's always muted before the meeting. I was saying that I wasn't expecting this question, but if I ever was blocked into a game, I would say it's gonna be playing. Okay, that's actually a hard one because I'm not a video game fan, but I'm gonna relate that to my own life. I love extreme sports, and I love to, like, as soon as I start, I love to learn quickly. The first extreme sport that I did here in the United States was skiing, which is something that I dreamed of since I was a child. I got the chance to do it here in Rochester. I had a trainer who was somebody from Russia. As you all know, Russia is a very cold place. And after just a few hours, I picked on the rhythm so quickly. But at some point, I wanted to go faster and I was really blocked. I didn't know what to do because my trainer will always say, go slow, because if you fell down, you risk breaking up your arm or your leg. At some point, I really wanted to go faster, and I realized that he was afraid for me to break something, but I wasn't worrying about my own self. So I decided not to listen to him, and I decided to go before him, and I went very fast, and he came down and met me in the bottom. What he said was, wow, you are now a great skier. So if I was ever blocked in something like this, what I would want is not people to say, don't do it. What I would need is when people say, just go for it. Thank you very much. Back to you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Hey, Gaurav.
Oh,
Hi.
I guess even Destin. Yeah.
Did you say you're going to decide your destiny? Sorry.
No. Destin also raised his hand, I guess. So that's why. But I'll go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Here's your question. What place are you among your siblings? You have no siblings, first, second, third, etc. And how do you think that affected you today and who you became?
Having no siblings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, like to start off, like I am actually a single child, and growing up having no siblings felt like I am the master of myself, like of the whole room. And I considered myself only as the paragon of of the room, or like you can say, like it's my own, like you can say, small kingdom. But when I visited my cousins, then I actually felt what actually having siblings mean and what the relation we build. I, of course, like I don't have any cousin, like real brother sisters, but look, my cousins are more near to me as if they are my real brother sisters. We share the same bond, and that's what. And one more thing, like bringing, like you can say, my upbringing didn't affect much because, as you know, like. People from India actually are too much like family oriented. If you walk, you will find at least like 10-20 people in the house at a time when you have a joint family. So it actually didn't like affected me much. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I grew up in a house with 2 other sisters, 1 bathroom. Not a great way to be. Who's next? Hey, Desant. Okay. Next. Would you rather be excellent at one thing or decent at multiple things?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Would you rather be excellent, so like prodigy level skill at one thing, or decent in multiple things?
Well, thank you. I've always been struggling with that question because I like doing multiple things, and so far I will admit that I haven't had the time yet to be focused on one single thing, to learn it until I master it perfectly. So that is something that I would really want to do, being excellent to something. Maybe I would it will help me, or it will enables me to be a paragon of it to someone else who will look up after me at that thing. And one thing that I really want to be excellent at is computer-aided design, because I have a mechanical engineering background, and I really like designing stuff on my computer. That is something that I really want to be excellent at. But also, since I'm still struggling with a couple more stuff that I really want to be decent to, I would say that computer-aided design would be the thing that I really want to master, but I don't want it to preclude me to master other stuff. Thank you, Madam Table Topic Master.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more. Who wants to do our last one? Mingsu? Awesome. What are you most excited to excel at this year?
This is excellent. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. What are you most excited at excelling at this year? So like, what are you most excited that you're gonna really be striving to get excellent at, whether it's a skill or just something you really wanna grasp on in excellence and give it all you got.
As for me, yeah, I did a lot of things in this year. I graduated from college and I experienced coronavirus, and I think the thing I feel most excited is not I became a paragon in any field, but I think the most thing I learned in this special period is how important the family is. In this special period, the coronavirus, which is very dangerous, and I think my family just bound together to solve the problem. Yeah, we take care of each other. We share the medicine, we share the mask, and we share the important news we learned. I think it's very interesting and very meaningful. And this is true love for me. I think it's very important. And I think I'm a good son in most of the point. And I think my parents also are very good parents. Maybe I'm not a paragon in any field, but I think I'm a paragon in this relationship with my family. So that's all, thanks.
Thank you. I imagine you had to show a lot of courage and just compassion with one another during this really difficult time. Also, thank you for joining us at like 6:30 in the morning. It's a great example to live to. Okay, so the next part is I'm gonna ask the grammarian, did everyone use the word of the day?
Everyone used the word of the day except Cyril. I didn't hear it, so I'm not sure about that. But besides Cyril, yes, everyone else used the word of the day.
Okay, thank you. And was everyone within the timing rules?
Yes, everyone was.
Awesome. And Chitra, are you gonna make that magic vote button thingy? It's a very technical term.
Yeah, just a minute.
Yeah. So we all get to vote and do a metaphorical chocolate. Of course, when I see all of you guys, I feel like we're going to just need bags of chocolate to make up for this at some point. So I will turn the meeting back over to the Toastmaster, Mr. Xavier.
Wonderful job, Deb. Kept it nice and fun. The video game question was definitely unexpected. I would have felt like Cyril in that situation, which is good. You gotta keep us on our toes. Our third section tonight is our evaluation section. And to lead us generally in that evaluation section is our general evaluator, who is Preetam. Preetam has grown a lot as a speaker and a leader. I could say more, but what I really want to talk about is his morning routine. First off, he said he loved the question, which is a typical Toastmasters intro response. So he said, first, drinking some water and then emptying his bowels with a smiley face. Some reading for inspiration. And third, he jumps into an hour or longer exercise and meditation session, depending on how much time he has. So by the time he starts the day, he's completely at peace. So to lead us peacefully through this section will be Preetam.
All right, Xavier, thank you for that awesome introduction. And I absolutely love the Zoom meetings that we're having. I know it's better to meet in person, but today I was in my lab. I was doing some programming, some simulations, and my computer kept on crashing. So I was late. I did not reach home in time. And I was actually listening to the meeting while I was driving. That would have never been possible if it was a physical meeting. So that is one of the positive things of a Zoom meeting. So we are going to go through the evaluation sections. Our evaluations are important because we want our speakers to become the paragon of public speaking. To lead us through the evaluation session will be me. And before we go through the evaluations, I will ask our timer, Ajita, to explain the timing rules for the evaluation. So Ajita, can you unmute yourself and tell us about the timing for the evaluators?
Sure. So evaluators will have 2 to 3 minutes for their evaluation. At 2 minutes, my background will go green. At 2.5, it will become yellow. And at 3 minutes, it will become red, where the evaluators will have 30 seconds to wrap up their evaluation. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Okay, our first evaluator is Tanay, and Tanay is going to be evaluating Kelly. So Tanay himself is on the visionary communicator pathway and on level 2. He has been associated with Toastmasters for 2 years now and had given a wonderful speech at our graduate orientation last year, which helped our club to get a lot of new members. So let us hear from Tanay with his 2 years of Toastmasters experience evaluating Kelly. Tanay, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Preetam. Good evening, everyone, my fellow Toastmasters and Kelly. So I'll start with the evaluation. The first thing that not the first thing actually, but after the end of your speech, I noticed that your speech was perfectly planned in a sense that at the start it had a code and how to like the start where you had a code and then it went into different sections, and in the end you had a message, and it all tied together very well. So I'll start with the first thing that when you started the speech, you started with a quote of Steve Jobs, and I don't know if this was intentional, but you gave a quote and you quoted that it was Steve Jobs, and then you immediately said, "I have a lot of jobs." So I don't know if this was intentional, but I was like, I had to ask, I had to talk about this. But then eventually you went on with your experience as holding different jobs and what you had learned in those jobs. The first job that you started be you being a babysitter, and as I was noticing your vocal variety in it, you were mentioning like when you were calling the kids Sean and Bridget, you used a vocal variety there, and it was distinct from the vocal variety that used in throughout your speech. What I mean by that is, uh, when you were telling us about your babysitting experience, you had a point where you told that at the end of the day you had to calm down and read a story to the children. And while saying that, you actually had also calmed down while telling us about that. So I noticed that you were using a tone in your speech that, as when it was needed for that specific part of the story. When there was a point where you were explaining about your fast food restaurant experience, you started, so maybe it was just me, but you started saying it really fast, and you said that I worked at a fast food restaurant at Wendy's, and I didn't even know whether it was intentional again or not. But something that I would have liked in that would have been that the entire section, maybe if that entire section could have been like fast, in a sense that you could have told, so in the fast food you have to learn about three things, that is white, red, and green, and white is this. Something like that would have added more flavor to that speech. And also when you were uh, mentioning the dialogues of the characters, like for example your manager Anne, you were saying like you're making a sandwich, not a dinner. And it was said in a way that was a perfect use of vocal variety, I would say, because it was not, it was quite distinguishable from what you use as, like what you in a way you speak and in a way that Anne speaks. So it was just one dialogue, but it helped me figure out the distinctions. So that was a good job. And then the final job, where you were a patient care technician, it was, I just love the fact that in the end you told us about how the things you had learned with all the jobs that you had held had shaped you to who you are, and the ending message was really good. So overall, it was a good speech where you used a vocal variety to, as it was mentioned in the project. So that is it.
Awesome, Tanay. We move on to our next evaluation. Our next evaluator is going to be Hassan. Hassan will be evaluating Chitra. So Hassan is on the leadership development pathway level 2, and he has been involved in Toastmasters for 7 years. That's a long time to be a Toastmaster. As long as I've been in my PhD. So Hassan, come on and give us your evaluation of Chitra's speech.
Thank you very much, Pritam. There is something I notice every time Chitra is delivering a speech. She smiles and she has great introduction. This is something she did also today by telling us all the things she wishes she could do in a week. She plans well everything she's doing. The purpose of the speech was to share some aspect of planning and implementing of a project. So she did it by telling us the story of the trip she had with some friends and how picky she was about having everything planned and everything going as she planned. But unfortunately, not all the time things go as she planned. And this is the message behind her story. This is what she wanted us to understand. So she told us this story, which was captivating. I could see that people were listening to her, trying to know what's the message behind the story. There is something I really noticed in the speech. An improvement from the previous speeches was the gestures. She was able to use more effectively gestures in this speech, which is good for storytelling. And the message of, as I said, of the speech is that things don't always come when you want. So what to improve in that speech? First, I would say vocal variety. Because when you are telling a story, it's always good to have some dialogues in the story, and this was missing in that speech. and also have pauses, help people better understand what she is saying. She didn't have that one. And probably this is the reason the speech was short. She would have taken some time to have some pauses and also to develop her conclusion, which was great, but I wish she could have taken time to develop the conclusion. So this is what I think she has to improve for the coming speeches, the vocal variety, like having pauses, and also to include dialogues every time she's telling a story. Back over to you, Mr. Evaluator.
Wonderful, Hassan. We'll move on to our third evaluator for tonight. The third evaluator is going to be Alex, evaluating grand speech. Now, Alex is already a very accomplished Toastmasters. I am not sure whether he has achieved his DTM or not. Oh, he has. So DTM is the highest education award you can get in Toastmasters. It's called the Distinguished Toastmasters. And it's truly because he has distinguished himself as a Toastmaster. That award is given to only 0.7% of Toastmasters in the whole world. So that's how special Alex is in Toastmasters. Alex is on the Visionary Communicator Pathway, level 4. And let us now hear from Alex's 7 years of experience in Toastmasters, evaluating grand speech. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Grant. This was a wonderful speech, and what you did best with this speech was the way that you framed each thought. That when folks speak naturally, like I'm doing right now, there's oftentimes interruptions, it's run-on sentences, you stop in the middle, you move to the next thought. And those are all parts of speeches that can happen when folks are speaking off the cuff. But when you have a prepared speech, it's important to finish each thought. And you did that really well, and you had lots of great structure to your thoughts. And that's a great way to make sure that everyone's staying engaged with your speech. I want to take you through a couple of ways that you can even strengthen that structure more. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is, as you're going through your speech, you had all these awesome stories, the stories about going to dinner and having those conversations, the wonderful story about the Museum of Play, and extending out that story so that we can get a sense of the way that your relationship with Brendan worked in real time. We got to watch that story play out, you watching him, copying him, and how that relates to your speaking. That was a wonderful story. It's a great metaphor. The way that I would encourage you to strengthen the structure of your speech is to find a theme or a thread that you can run through and repeat in each of your stories. And I'm not sure exactly where I would take you with that in this particular speech. We could probably sit down and workshop it and figure it out, but I'm sure you could do it too. But finding that thread to work all the way through. And the other suggestion that I have, since you specifically were looking for vocal variety and for gestures, the pauses in your speech, the best advice I've ever gotten and I've ever seen work in people's lives when there's this opportunity to exponentially expand vocal variety and gestures is to do it crazy. You can do it as a character, you can do it way louder or way softer than you ever would in a speech, or way slower. Do way bigger gestures than you would ever want to do ever in your speech in life. But when you do it crazy like that, it frees up parts of your own personality so that they can get out. Because there's a somewhere we put a restraint on ourselves. So if you consider that theme and you take it through and then you give your speech a couple times, totally crazy, it will make the structure that you already have that much stronger. And then the added bits of your personality that get unlocked will then make it even more powerful. Mr. General Evaluator.
Okay, so that was the evaluation of the prepared speeches for our meeting. We'll now move on to functionary reports. I'll start with our timer report. Ajita, can you give us the timing reports for the meeting?
For the prepared speeches, everyone was on time except Chitra, who was under time, which was 4 minutes and 5 seconds. For table topics, everyone was on time. And for the evaluators, except for Tanay, both Alex and Hassan were on time. Tanay just shot by a couple of seconds or over 3:30. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Ajita. Now we'll bring up our accounter, Cyril, for his report.
Again, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So for the report, we have Kelly, 1 repeat, Chitra, 2 R's, Tane, 4 arms, 2 R's, 1 so, Xavier, 1 R, 1 so, myself, I killed it, a lot of R's and ums, Gurav, 1 R, Destin, 2 R's, 1 so, and Muncho, 1 R. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Our final functionary will be our grammarian, Alasera. Please share your report.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Right, +1 to everyone for using extensively the word of the day, paragon. We had some imaginary, like in grand speech, big fat zero, which I could see sitting on his head. And from Chitra, when she said my brain's graph is not linear, but there are ups and downs. Really great use of imagery. Apart from that, I didn't catch anything that could be improved on, except the advice from Alex to be crazy. So people, let's be crazy. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right. Now it's time for my report. And I have to say that this was a wonderful meeting, especially great job, Ming-Shu, on coordinating the claps. We have a new role for our Zoom meetings, that is the clap master, because we are doing the sign language clapping all the time. We also want to hear it. Ming-Shu did a great job coordinating the claps after every functionary, every speaker. So kudos on that. Ajita really loved the background and it was amazing to see those colors change. I don't know how you do that. I still don't know how to do that, but that was very helpful. Something that I think we could work on Zoom meetings is that as we are doing Zoom meetings, we are really getting good at it, right? But one piece of thing that we really need to think about is if we are doing Zoom meetings with 16 or 18 people, let us all do Zoom meetings in gallery view so that we can see all the participants and make eye contact with everyone, right? And especially since we need to look at the timer to see if we are on time. Also, one more point that could be improved is that if all functionaries and speakers could write whether they are a speaker or timer beside their name, that would be very helpful. And for the evaluators, Alex mentioned it last week, there's an evaluation structure. You say something positive, you say something that could be improved. And at the end, what you do is summarize the whole thing. That is when the evaluation really sinks in. Other than that, wonderful meeting, and I will hand it over back to our Toastmaster, Xavier.
Wonderful job tonight, Preetam. And if there's someone that took Alex's advice, it was you, because it was the first time I've seen someone take a Toastmasters meeting from their car, just to be as present as possible before they took their roll on. Now for my favorite part of the meeting, handing over the virtual chocolate. So the winner is going to have to treat themselves. And can I get a drum roll for that? And we can go as crazy as possible here. I got nothing. All right. The winner is Ming Shuo. So we will email you that virtual piece of chocolate so you can enjoy it as a morning snack for your day. That is the end of my rant, and to pass it back to our president who will guide us home here, Hassan.
Thank you very much, Xavier, for this great job you did today. Thank you to all the speakers and evaluators. Congratulations to Ming Shuo. I think it's the second time you won the. Is that right? The second time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. Congratulations. And we're glad to have Gaurav here today. He was now a new member of the club. Gaurav, I look forward to your first speech. Just an announcement before we end the meeting. I told you 2 weeks ago that Ramsey, who helped us have our Tigertales Club at RIT, is going to retire. So we mailed her a gift. And I would like to thank Pritam, who drove to her place to drop the gift. And she also sent us an email to tell us that she really appreciated the gift. And she told us that Tigertales is one of the achievements she's the most proud of at RIT. So thank you very much for being with us today. Look forward to seeing you, all of you, next week.